Welcome to Rauta's Underground Trio videos. Once again, we have three different bands and from three different parts of the world, and these are all from the underground, rather unknown bands. First, let's quickly go through these in alphabetical order, and then from worst to best. I was lost in words because I was trying to figure out why I did not already put them in alphabetical order, but hey, happens when you're working and all that stuff. First we have Penthos with their album Erevos. This is pretty basic black metal, nothing outstanding here. Was just forgetting to check out where this is actually from because I was figuring out I didn't actually check it out. There are a couple of names, a couple of bands with the given name. The other one is death metal band. So this is Greek black metal band from 2017, and now with the second album. Always check out the background before doing this, and then when you forget it, you're like, what the hell? Then we have this other band called Ritual Mass. This one I remember is from 2016, 2017 from United States of America. A few smaller releases out, and this is the debut album 2025. It's very dark death metal, going a little bit more old school ways. And then we have this Swedish band with a Finnish name, and seems like some Finnish descendants, at least in terms of names and all. This one is Yritys, with the new album Mors Meum Ambulat. Yritys can be translated either attempt or something like corporation. So confusing name in that sense, but this is something that I've previously gone through. Now, putting these in worst to best is a little bit different, hard, and all that stuff because these all represent different styles. So one might just be inclined to fall for another because of various reasons. Matters of taste and like. So whatever is your taste matters to you. I'm just here to tell my take on this. So don't be offended behalf of the bands because you might feel this is unfair or something. As always, I've gotten all these CDs for free, either through the labels or bands or whatever, so I didn't pay any of these. So freebies for fair review and all. Now first we go to United States with Ritual Mass, and this is Cascading Misery. Now, while there is nothing exactly wrong with this given album, this old school death metal is kind of an album which makes you feel why there are no killer songs, and the reason is there are no killer riffs. Atmospheric wise, this is pretty good of an album. I mean, I like that it sounds so kind of evil and sinister and especially dark. And I'm like, okay, it will bloom at some point. And by the time I'm done with the album, I'm like, well, that never really happened. So this is the kind of a, album that is promising you a lot of things. But how the saying sometimes goes, it is an album with music, but not exactly songs. No, of course, factually, there are songs. That's kind of a given. It's not like these are without patterns and not conducted. But I feel like there's a lot of this momentum going on that when most bands have, killer riffs, which are then complemented with fillers, this is more about filler stuff. Nothing bad as such, but it's just like the basic stuff, the kind of stuff that you're used to among the, killer riffs. And then you're like, okay, it doesn't matter if this riff is just like dun 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 and nothing else is happening. I'm doing this in rolling vocals. And you're like, okay, yeah, you get the idea. So very basic in my opinion. So kind of a mediocrity, but with a good atmosphere. The second album, in this case, is from Sweden, Yritys, and this is labeled as depressive suicidal black metal. Not exactly as good as some of their previous works, but I gotta say I like that they're doing something different. This sounds very Swedish in the sense that there's some other bands coming from Sweden which have, tried similar styles which are kind of like outside the typical borders of black metal. One band especially comes to my mind, and it's Life Lover. In a way, maybe Shining too. I mean, when you have these spoken parts, almost like clean vocal things put there, and some not your typical black metal riffs, and sometimes you're like, why are these guys putting these? But I think it's kind of a showcasing some kind of a mental illness part. So must be some kind of a Swedish thing, because pretty much all of the Swedish bands have traveled into this particular niche style of stuff. And in a way, I like what Yritys is doing. Sometimes it's more like, it doesn't get that good with the execution. It's almost like you have the idea, but the execution is where it kind of gets a little bit clumsy. One of the reasons in this particular case is that the drums, or it seems like machine, I'm saying it sounds like that basically, because here nothing exactly mentions any of the drum works or instruments for that matter, but it sounds like a drum machine. And in the end, that really matters. How does it sound like? I mean, I don't even care if it had the best drummer in the world in this particular album, if it sounds like it's just some homemade drum machine. And it's rubbing the wrong way. It's just kind of making this very demo-ish and kind of a clumsy, whereas real drums would have been better. I also partially blame the minor flaws on the mixing. While it's not bad, it's clearly not as good as it could have been. Like I said, some previous Yritys albums have been, in my opinion, better. This is kind of like trying too much, like reaching to the heights which you can't, and then you're kind of bound to fall down. But because this has more attempt, as per the name, than Ritual Mass, I have to put it above it. But technically speaking, as much as I'm liking or lacking the liking for these given albums, they're pretty much the same level. But if I had to choose, kind of pointing at my head, which album I would take it with me for a week in listening sessions, Yritys or Ritual Mass, I would say Yritys. So, in a way, clearly, the winner of this pile comes from Greece, from this band Penthos. Something tells me in my mind that I have heard this somewhere, but I can't really pinpoint it, so maybe I'm just imagining things. This is not a great album, but it's clearly quite good. Fairly decent of a black metal album that totally deserves the top spot in this given review. Now, let's get the negative things out first. Negative things go as there's nothing exactly new here, nothing is revolutionary, nothing is particularly interesting, nothing is actually showing like this band is better than the classics because, well, there is nothing like that. But the good side is these guys doing the very traditional second wave black metal is actually fairly good. The thing what these guys are doing is just like keeping the old flame going on, while some of the other bands have moved on, decided to abandon black metal altogether and all. It's almost like these guys of, I would say, newer generation, because the band is new, is like, okay, we're gonna take it. You can retire and move on from black metal and do what you want. If you don't have the guts or energy or will or whatever to do black metal anymore, we're here to carry the torch. So while Penthos is not exactly creating anything new as such, at least their black metal is kind of easy to get into. It has this kind of evil feeling. It has this traditional atmosphere. And as such, I am pointing definitely to the 1990s. But like I said, when it comes to the actual songwriting, it doesn't really like drill into your head like, okay, this is a great hit song. This is something very memorable or catchy or something that could be considered a future classic. That is not to say that albums like this are not needed. In fact, every now and then, among the classics ones, your favorite ones, you probably want to hear something new. And then you're like, should I go outside the genre or can I stick in the box? And if you decide to keep yourself in the box, you want some more black metal, but not something like your favorite classics, then you dig up albums like this, give it a spin or two, and figure out it's actually pretty good. I could go see this band live and all. And then you move back to your favorites to just, stick with the great music. So while Penthos is not exactly something superior, at least it's fairly nice, and I think it deserves its listening experience. As always, the links are provided in the description box, so check them out in the order you prefer personally. Like I said, your opinion might be very, very different than mine, so you might think some of the things I said here are not true in your opinion, and that's totally fine. It doesn't matter what do you think, in my opinion, and my opinion probably shouldn't matter too much to you. So I'm just mentioning here, giving you some tips what to listen and what not. So off you go and enjoy.